join my friend and fellow former Ohio Secretary of State, Governor Bob Taft, to urge Ohioans to vote and to volunteer as poll workers. I speak almost every year. I speak at Governor Taft's class at the University of Dayton, and as some of you know, Bob Taft and I are of opposite parties. We don't agree on plenty. Uh, he actually beat me in a 1990 election. That's why he was Secretary of State and I wasn't any longer. But we share a commitment to our state and to our democracy. So this year we teamed up to recruit poll workers. We know a number of poll workers are generally, often they're retired, and many of them thought, rightly, understandably, that they should not be at the polls all day at the age at their age and potentially being exposed to the coronavirus. So we want to help Ohioans. We want to help recruit younger people to work at the polls. Plenty of options to cast your ballot, as Governor Taft and I were talking about. You can request an absentee ballot, go online, do it now before October 31st. The Board of Election needs to receive that request by noon, October 31st, request for an absentee. You can vote early in person pretty much any day between now and Election Day. Early voting is open. Go online to find the nearest location and the times that it's open each day. Or you can vote, of course, on Election Day itself, November 3rd. The important thing is to make a plan to vote as early as you feel comfortable. And if you have any questions, you can go to vote.org/Ohio, vote.org/Ohio to find all the information you need. We know that our elections depend on poll workers. This year, there's a huge shortage of volunteers. Governor Taft and I taped a little bipartisan PSA video that we released yesterday, especially encouraging young voters, young citizens, young healthy people to step up, become poll workers. It will be a good experience. It pays about $100. It's a long day. It's not a high hourly wage, but you're serving your country. And for young voters especially, it's an opportunity to learn about how elections work from the inside, an experience that most people have never had. So Governor Taft and I bipartisanly urge as many of you as possible to volunteer at your local Board of Elections to work the polls on November 3rd. Thanks so much. Okay.
Thanks, Senator. I'm happy to call on folks if that's easier. Then we have Todd from WLIO Lima.
Todd?
Senator, how are you doing today?
Good.
Basically, just want to talk about all this back and forth that's been going on about when this new stimulus package is going to get done. The speaker wanted to do it, she set a deadline. Of course, the White House ignored. And, now the president is talking about doing something after the election. What are your thoughts on all this?
It's something we should have followed what the House did back in May, and we should have moved on this this past summer. I don't think that the president, and I don't think Mitch McConnell, the Republican leader of the Senate, I don't think they get out and about and see the kind of suffering. 600,000 Ohioans lost their $600 a week unemployment. Many schools don't have the money to open safely for in-person learning. Local governments in Allen County and places Lima and Bluffton and Putnam County and all over, local governments are strapped and not providing as full of services as they had and have to lay off far too many people that will affect the quality of life for everybody. And I'm very concerned since McConnell and Trump ended the $600 a week unemployment benefit that literally tens and tens of thousands of Ohioans are going to face eviction. And we've done nothing to stop We've done not nearly enough to stop eviction. And to evict somebody as winter approaches and to evict somebody in the midst of a pandemic is just wrong.
And, as we see cases rise here in the state of Ohio, businesses, are still feeling the effects, and this could really reverse a trend where some of them were opening back up and still making a little bit of money, but now they may have less customers coming in just because people are afraid to go out.
Well, the failure of the administration, of the Trump administration, to combat this virus, we're 4% of the world's people, we're 22% of the world's deaths. We have a huge, Ohio is at its highest number of infections a day that it's been through the whole pandemic. The president still hasn't come up with a plan to get protective equipment out to hospitals and others, bus drivers and others, and people that have to work exposed to the public. The president still's not come up with a plan for contact tracing, testing, contact tracing. And the pandemic's getting worse because the president has, I mean, imagine if the president back in March had been honest with us instead of lying about it, saying it's going to go away, it's fake news, all the things he said. If he had said, this is serious, I'm wearing a mask, you should all wear a mask, I'm socially distancing, you should all socially distance, our kids would be back at school, our businesses would be back and running, and tens of thousands of Americans would still be alive.
All right. Thank you, Senator. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Todd. See you, buddy. Thanks.
Thanks, Todd. We have Jim from WTOD. Jim Adi, do we have you?
Yeah, right here. Sorry, could not hear you. Senator, let's go back and review just for a moment just the latest developments on the Coney Barrett nomination process. Your view on this, the fact that the members of the committee did not participate, Democratic members of the committee did not participate in that vote. And secondly, your anticipation, I think this is set for Monday, is that correct, in the full Senate? Your anticipated, how do you think this will play out, and what message are you trying to send as a Democrat member of the U.S. Senate?
Well, we've never seen this happen. The last time that sitting Supreme Court justice died this close to an election, or even at all this close to election, was during Abraham Lincoln's presidency, and he said, let's let the voters decide for the Senate and for the White House. And you know, that this is something that we've never done. Mitch McConnell preached something else before, but the big thing here is Congress has failed. The Senate has failed to provide help for unemployed workers, for schools, for local governments, for small businesses. Congress has failed to do that. Yet Senator McConnell will move heaven and earth to jam another corporate special interest judge, who President Trump chose her because he wanted somebody that would repeal the Affordable Care Act. And the president and Mitch McConnell knew that the democratic way of overturning that failed because the public didn't want to see it passed and overturned, the House and Senate and the White House. So they're going to the court to try to legislate, and the court should not be a place to legislate. But that's what President Trump and Senator McConnell want to do with this new Supreme Court justice.
Okay, thanks.
Hey, I'm sorry, Jim, let me add one other thing. The most troubling part of putting her on the court is that for 10 years, people have been protected if they have a pre-existing condition. 5 million Ohioans have a pre-existing condition. For 10 years, insurance companies can't cancel. You can't raise your rates if you're asthmatic, if you have hypertension, if you have high blood pressure, or you had a stroke, or you had coronavirus. For 10 years, you're protected. If the president has his way with this Supreme Court justice, those protections will, in all likelihood, be wiped away. Okay. Thanks, Jim.
All righty.
Stop this beeping. Hold on, microwave is beeping because of that hot water. Hold on. All right, sorry about that.
No problem. Do we have Heather or anyone from WCMH Columbus?
This is Ron Regan with WWS Cleveland.
Yep, go ahead. That'll work.
Hey, good morning, Senator.
Good.
Always good to talk to you.
Thanks.
I'd like to have your take and your response on, and I think you've seen this. These are doctors with serious disciplinary histories or criminal convictions or tax liens, who's also at the same time has received the CARES Act funding. And I'd like to get your thoughts on, is that how taxpayers expect their money to be spent? And what specifically can you or are you doing to try to address that?
Well, I'm concerned since this station did its investigation. We need to know more. We always need to know when public dollars are spent, and we try to do oversight. The media, the importance of media oversight is great, and we want to, once we find that out, we move in and do the right thing. And as I look at what your investigation has shown, we'll work with the federal government to make sure that the laws weren't broken and there is no, there is nothing involved that has hurt taxpayers.
Yeah, I think particularly in of so many taxpayers wondering, that they're thinking that they've been left in the lurch.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, this whole recovery stimulus, which was generally been a good thing. I mean, the $600 a week, some money to local governments, a good bit of help to businesses is a good thing. But as interpreted and carried out by the Trump administration, they have, shall we say, favored the biggest companies at the expense of small business, favored Wall Street, as they always do, at the expense of workers. So we need to do oversight to make sure that these dollars are spent appropriately and not just help the big guys. I mean, it's been far too long in this country that Wall Street gets bailed out and workers don't. We saw what happened when the president betrayed us on Lordstown. That a lot of talk there. We saved the industry, but then GM put their finger in the eye of the workers in Northeast Ohio in the Youngstown area, and the president didn't stand up for them.
Thank you, Senator.
Sure. Thanks, Ron. Good to see you. Thanks.
Thanks, Ron. Do we have Andrew from WTOL Toledo?
Morning, Senator.
How are you?
Okay, yourself.
Good, thanks.
Last time we talked, I think it was a week or two ago. Ohio is obviously still attracting a lot of attention for the presidential candidates. Vice President was in Ohio yesterday. He's coming back to the Toledo area tomorrow. Senator Harris is coming to Ohio this weekend. Just your continued thoughts on Ohio's importance in the coming election, especially as latest numbers now, more than 1 million Ohioans have already cast their ballot in the election. Just your thoughts on that.
Yeah, people are excited in Ohio to vote. My wife and I got an absentee and then drove it to town to the Board of Elections and put it in one of the drop box, put it in the only drop box. And unfortunately, there's only one per county because of the Secretary of State's efforts to suppress the vote. But I think there's going to be a huge vote, in part reaction to the efforts to suppress the vote. I think that this race is very close. It's close, even though Trump won the state by a lot last time. Voters in Ohio feel that the president, they feel a little bit taken by his phony populism, that he was going to look out for workers. And Joe Biden is the most pro-worker candidate either party's nominated in a generation, and contrast that with Trump's and his dignity of work, contrast to that with Trump's betrayal of workers, refusal to raise the minimum wage, unwillingness to do anything to protect workers, essential workers from the coronavirus, appointing nominees who have histories of fighting unions and fighting worker and opposing workers. So the contrast is pretty clear, and I think that's why Joe Biden, even though it's increasingly hard for a Democrat to win in Ohio, that's why Joe Biden's going to win Ohio, I think.
Thank you, Senator.
All right. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, Andrew. Do we have Brant from WLWT Cincinnati? Okay. Do we have Dave or anyone from WCHS Charleston Huntington?
Good morning, Senator. This is Dave Benton with WCHS in Charleston.
Yeah.
I understand you would like to see the delay of Amy Coney Barrett's confirmation until after inauguration. Do you think that she would vote to diminish marriage equality and the full benefits and protections for families that come with it? Why or why not?
Well, I think that President Trump nominated her for several reasons. One, he knows that she will, he's looked at her, his administration's looked at her writings and her speeches. They're confident that she will take away marriage equality, that she'll try to overturn that. They're confident that Trump is confident that she'll wipe away the Affordable Care Act, which would mean literally hundreds of thousands of West Virginians, millions of Ohioans will lose their consumer protections if they have a pre-existing condition. I think that they know, the Trump administration knows that this judge will always side with corporate interests over workers and big insurance companies over consumers. That's who she is. It's what her legal life has been devoted to, is supporting the wealthy at the expense of the middle class. And that's why President Trump picked her. That's why virtually every Republican seems to be voting for her.
And one quick question. The debate tonight, what do you think? What do you expect to see on stage?
Well, I think you'll see the difference in character between the two, that Biden, his whole career has been trying to bring people together. He's been thought of as a pretty bipartisan guy in the Senate. He's always looked to try to cooperate. His rhetoric rarely divides people. You contrast that with the president, whose whole presidency has been divisive tweets and calling political opponents names, calling even his own staff often unkind names. I just don't think the country, after the debate tonight, the country wants to live through another 4 years of this chaos where the president's always upending and calling names and lashing out and playing to divisions in our society. I think the debate tonight will show the public's just sick of that.
All right. Thank you, Senator.
All right. Thanks. Glad to.
Thank you. Do we have Kim or anyone from WDTN Dayton? Okay, no problem. That's the end of my list. If we have another minute or so, if any folks have
Yeah, also, if you have a second question, yeah.
a follow-up.
All right.
Senator, I'll go ahead now.
Sure.
I just want to come back to Ohio's COVID numbers. The past couple weeks, they have been going in the very, very wrong direction, looking like it could be worse than the surge after the 4th of July, and we're heading into the season, flu season. Just sort of your message to Ohioans, what they should be doing as schools are pulling back on having kids in class. Just your message to Ohioans.
Well, of course, Ohioans should wear a mask and should practice social distancing. It would be helpful if we had a White House that believed in masking, and the president would set an example. When I go to the Senate floor, when I'm speaking on the Senate floor, I wear a mask. I think it's important that anybody who is exposed to the public and is a public figure in any way needs to model. I mean, imagine if the president had said back in March or February, I'm going to wear, like Governor DeWine did, I'm going to wear a mask. This is really serious, and I'm going to tell you the truth, and we should social distance. I think that business would be open. I think schools would be back in session, and there'd be tens of thousands of Americans who would still be alive. When the president lied to us in February and March and told us it would go away and called it a hoax and a liberal plot from the media and from the Democrats to undermine him, the president's incompetence and indifference to this is really a serious problem. And I'm hopeful that, I don't think he's probably going to change. And that's one reason I think the election is so important, to have a president who is going to head on address this coronavirus. We can't fix the economy. We can't get kids back to school if we haven't solved the coronavirus. And so, and all of us as individuals should wear masks and be socially distanced and be careful. Our government needs to rise to the occasion too.